Hello, hello, hello. I am back by the grace of the good Lord. So, we give all honor and glory to the God above. And with that being said, we're going to get into the oracles of God. As you know, I like to read from the New King James Version. Last time we left off on chapter 48 of Genesis, and we're going to pick up chapter 49 and 50. So if you have your Bibles, let's get started. Genesis 49. And Jacob called his sons and said, Gather together, that I may tell you what shall befall you in the last days. Verse 2. Gather together and hear, you sons of Jacob, and listen to Israel, your father. Verse 3. Reuben, you are my firstborn, my might, and the beginning of my strength, the excellency of dignity and the excellency of power. Verse 4. Unstable as water, you shall not excel, because you went up to your father's bed. Then you defiled it. He went up to my couch. Verse 5. Simeon and Levi are brothers. Instruments of cruelty are in their dwelling place. Verse 6. Let not my soul enter their council. Let not my honor be united to their assembly. For in their anger they slew a man, and in their self will they hamstrung an ox. Verse 7. Cursed be their anger, for it is fierce, and their wrath, for it is cruel. I will divide them in Jacob and scatter them in Israel. Verse 5. Judah, you are he whom your brothers shall praise. Your hand shall be on the neck of your enemies. Your father's children shall bow down before you. Verse 9. Judah is a lion's whelp. From the prey, my son, you have gone up. And, excuse me, he bows down, he lies down as a lion, and as a lion, who shall rouse him? Verse 10. The scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor a lawgiver from between his feet until Shiloh comes, and to him shall be the obedience of the people. Verse 11. Binding his donkey to the vine, and his donkey's coat to the choice vine, he washed his garments in wine, and his clothes in the blood of grapes. His eyes are darker than wine, and his teeth whiter than milk. Verse 13. Zebulun shall dwell by the haven of the sea. He shall become a haven for ships, and his border shall adorn Sidon. Verse 14. Issachar is a strong donkey, lying down between two burdens. Verse 15. He saw that rest was good, and that the land was pleasant. He bowed his shoulder to bear a burden, and become a band of slaves. Verse 16. Dan shall judge his people, and one of the tribes of Israel. Verse 17. Dan shall be a serpent by the way, a viper by the path, that bites the horse's heels, so that its rider shall fall backwards. Verse 18. I have waited for your salvation, O Lord. Verse 19. Gad, a troop shall tramp upon him, but he shall triumph at last. Verse 20. Bread from Asher shall be rich, and he shall yield royal dainties. Verse 21. Naphtali is a deer let loose. He uses beautiful words. Verse 22. Joseph is a fruitful bow by a wall. By a well. His branches run over the wall. Verse 23. The archers have bitterly grieved him, shot at him, and hated him. Verse 24. But his bow remained in strength, and the arms of his hands were made strong by the hands of the mighty God of Jacob. From there is the shepherd, the stone of Israel. Verse 25. By the God of your father who will help you, and by the Almighty who will bless you, with blessings of heaven above, blessings of the deep that lies beneath, blessings of the breast and of the womb. Verse 26. The blessings of your father have excelled the blessings of my ancestors, up to the utmost bound of the everlasting hills. They shall be on the head of Joseph, and on the crown of the head of him who was separate from his brothers. Verse 27. Benjamin is a ravenous wolf. In the morning he shall devour the prey, and at night he shall divide the spoil. Verse 28. All these are the 12 tribes of Israel, and this is what their father spoke to them. And he blessed them. He blessed each one according to his own blessing. Verse 29. Then he charged them and said to them, I am to be gathered to my people. Bury me with my fathers in the cave that is in the field of Ephraim the Hittites. Verse 30. In the cave that is in the field of Machpelah, which is before Mamre in the land of Canaan, which Abraham bought with the field of Ephraim the Hittites as a possession for a burial place. Verse 31. There they buried Abraham and Sarah his wife. There they buried Isaac and Rebekah his wife. And there I buried Leah. Verse 32. The field and the cave that is there were purchased from the sons of Heth. Verse 33. And when Jacob had finished commanding his sons, he drew his feet up into the bed and breathed his last and was gathered to his people. All right, so Genesis 50. Then Joseph fell on his father's face and wept over him and kissed him. Verse 2. And Joseph commanded his servants, the physicians, to embalm his father. So the physicians embalmed Israel. Verse 3. 40 days were required for them, for such are the days required for those who are embalmed. And the Egyptians mourned for him 70 days. Verse 4. Now when the days of his mourning were past, Joseph spoke to the household of Pharaoh, saying, If now I have found favor in your eyes, please speak in the hearing of Pharaoh, saying, verse 5, My father made me swear, saying, Behold, I am dying in my grave, which I dug for myself in the land of Canaan. There you shall bury me. Now therefore, please let me go up and bury my father, and I will come back. Verse 6, And Pharaoh said, Go up and bury your father, as he made you swear. Verse 7, So Joseph went up to bury his father, and with him went up all the servants of Pharaoh, the elders of his house, and all the elders of the land of Egypt. Verse 8, As well as all the house of Joseph, his brothers, and his father's house. Only their little ones, their flocks, and their herds were left in the land of Goshen. Verse 9, And there went up with him both chariots and horsemen, and it was a very great gathering. Verse 10, Then they came to the threshing floor of Atad, which is beyond the Jordan, and they mourned there with a great and very solemn lamentation. He observed 7 days of mourning for his father. Verse 11, And when the inhabitants of the land, the Canaanites, saw the mourning at the threshing floor of Atad, they said, This is a deep mourning of the Egyptians. Therefore, its name is called Abel Mizraim, which is beyond the Jordan. Verse 12, So his sons did for him just as he had commanded them. Verse 13, For his sons carried him to the land of Canaan and buried him in the cave of the field of Machpelah, before Mamre, which Abraham bought with the field from Ephraim the Hittites as property for a burial place. Verse 14, And after he had buried his father, Joseph returned to Egypt, he and his fathers, and all who went up with him to bury his father. Verse 15, When Joseph's brothers saw that their father was dead, they said, Perhaps Joseph will hate us and may actually repay us for all the evil which we did to him. Verse 16, So they sent messengers to Joseph, saying, Before your father died, he commanded, saying, verse 17, Thus you shall say to Joseph, I beg you, please forgive the trespass of your brothers and their sin, for they did evil to you. Now please forgive the trespass of the servants of the God of your father. And Joseph wept when they spoke to him. Verse 18, Then his brothers also went and fell down before his face, and they said, Behold, we are your servants. Verse 19, Joseph said to them, Do not be afraid, for do not be afraid, for am I in the place of God? Verse 20, But as for you, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good, in order to bring it about as it is this day, to save many people alive. Verse 21, Now, therefore, do not be afraid. I will provide for you and your little ones. And he comforted them and spoke kindly to them. Verse 22, So Joseph dwelt in Egypt, he and his father's household, and Joseph lived 110 years. Verse 23, Joseph saw Ephraim's children to the third generation. The children of Machir, the son of Manasseh, were also brought up on Joseph's knees. Verse 24, And Joseph said to his brethren, I am dying, but God will surely visit you and bring you out of this land to the land of which he swore to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob. Verse 25, Then Joseph took an oath from the children of Israel, saying, God will surely visit you, and you shall carry up my bones from here. Verse 26. So Joseph died, being 110 years old, and they embalmed him, and he was put in a coffin in Egypt. Thank you so much for your attention. Thank you for being here as we read the oracles of God. As always, be blessed. And until next time, I love you. Bye.
Blessed assurance, Jesus is mine. Oh, what a foretaste of glory divine, heir of salvation, purchase of God, born of his spirit, washed in his blood. This is my story, this is my song, praising my Savior all the day long. This is my story, this is my song, praising my Savior all the day long.